Making headlines tonight. The size of dividends paid out by the Barbados Light and Power queried as the rate hearings enter day 3. Barbadians exercising caution even as mask wearing becomes optional. An area of Deacons cleaned up as the Clean and Green campaign moves ahead. And coming up in sports, the Royals still the only playoff qualifying team as the Kings lost last night in the CPL.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Barbadians tonight are reacting to the easing of the island's COVID-19 protocols in relation to the mask mandate. And it appears most Barbadians are not quite ready to do away with the masks just yet. At midnight last night, the new directive took effect. Our Shane Seeley has been getting a sense of how people are feeling about having the option to mask up or not. He joins us live now. Shane, good evening. What are people out there saying?
Well, Shane, while most people you would think would be happy not to be wearing those masks for now, and they have the option, but most of those Barbadians we spoke to were wearing their masks. In fact, I get the sense from a few that we spoke to that you may see many people choosing to wear masks in the foreseeable future. Here's what they had to say.
I think it is too soon to start. Because, you know, as you get too relaxed, then things start all back up over again. So
that's why you're still wearing yours?
Yes, of course.
I'm going to wear mine for the next 2 years because COVID will be with us for a long time. All right? And monkeypox, you still have to wear your mask for the monkeypox. So I believe that relaxing mask thing will cause the country a whole heap of problems in the long run.
It's okay. I think it's okay, but I prefer to wear my mask at this point in time.
Now, on the flip side, the change to the mask mandate is great news for tourism, especially the hotel sector. The chairman of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Renee Coppin, is confident it puts the industry in prime position for the winter tourist season.
We certainly believe that it's going to make us more competitive as persons from our various source markets, most of which have removed protocols, make their travel decisions on where they'll be staying over the upcoming months. We're going to continue to provide careful attention to health and safety, as we always have in this industry. And we also are going to maintain our strict attention to cleanliness and sanitation and all the standards that we've had in place for the last 2.5 years. And those things are required to keep both our teams and our guests safe.
There is, however, a word of caution coming from the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, and the president, Dr. Linda Williams, believes government made the right call retaining mask wearing in high-risk areas.
BAM agrees, therefore, with the cautious approach being taken, preserving mask mandates for those institutions where fast spread of a highly infectious virus is still possible, and in places where care is given to the elderly and vulnerable, and on public transport and in educational settings. While a full removal of all restrictions is likely desired by some, let us never forget that this pandemic is not over, and that the potential for new variants to emerge in the upcoming fall-winter season still exists.
Well, Shane, Dr. Williams is urging people to let good common sense prevail. If you're infected or displaying COVID-19 symptoms, simply stay at home. When you are attending events or gatherings, sanitize as a means of necessary precaution. And social distancing, that's still an option. You can do that at your discretion. The BAMP boss is also urging Barbadians to still consider masking up indoors and in air-conditioned environments. So far we've been seeing a mixed reaction, Shane. Only 17 hours plus after the mandate came into effect, so we'll see what happens over the next few days.
Okay, great work, Shane. Obviously, we're going to continue to watch how that unfolds as the day and weeks continue. 17 new COVID-19 cases are reported from the 282 tests conducted yesterday. The cases comprise 3 people under the age of 18 and 14 who are 18 years and older. There were 33 people in isolation facilities, while 300 were in home isolation. Day 3 of the Fair Trading Commission's hearings into a rate increase application by the Barbados Light and Power Company mainly focused on the interveners today as they were allowed to make their opening arguments before the panel chaired by Dr. Donnelly Carrington. Our Ryan Broom joins us now to review the day's proceedings, where we understand the interveners had some questions about the company's financial management over the past 11 years in the context of the increase now being requested. Good evening, Ryan.
Well, good evening, Shane. We've definitely started to get a sense of some of the major arguments that will be coming from interveners against the rate increase. Now, two of those key issues that came up today related to the size of dividends paid out by the company to its shareholders, while questions about the structure of the company's self-insurance fund were also raised. First up was Acting Legal Counsel Sharon Dean, who is appearing on behalf of the 30,000-strong Barbados Association of Retired Persons.
If there is a problem, can it be suggested that this issue was self-inflicted? I say that because what we're looking at is the fact that at some point the applicant opted to pay their shareholders a very large dividend.
Now, one of the other interveners who touched on the issue was Chief Legal Officer with the Division of Energy, Samantha Cummins. In her presentation, she lauded the Light and Power Company for its largely good work over the years and said it has generally served Barbados well for the most part. However, over the last 11 years in particular, the company's operation presented what she called some unprecedented peculiarities.
Expensive capital structure, massive dividend payouts, significant decline in cash flow, and indeed during the first 7 years of the period, the period 2009 to 2020, BLPC can be described as a very financially healthy company with strong profitability and liquidity. However, between the period 2015 to 2020, there was a precipitous fall in liquidity as a result of the dividend payouts to shareholders of $292.1 million. The dividend payouts are as follows: 2015, $70 million, 2016, $122.1 million, 2017, $33 million, 2018, $12 million, 2019, $55 million.
Now, the issue of the dividends came up again when President of the Barbados Sustainable Energy Cooperative Society, Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown, made his opening statements. He said it was instructive that in the 11-year period since Emira's takeover of the company, annual dividend payments moved from the prior average of less than $10 million per year to an average of near $48 million per year. Now, following the opening presentations, Managing Director of the Light and Power, Roger Blackman, took the witness stand, responding to questions from lead counsel for the company, King's Counsel Ramon Aline. Among other things, Mr. Blackman says the company had actually deferred a plan to apply for a rate increase back in 2015. He also said the company has invested millions of dollars in infrastructural improvements to its operations since the last rate hearing in 2010, especially with a major pivot towards renewable energy sources since then.
We did make significant investments over the period between rate cases. We invested in solar PV, 10 megawatts at Trent's, and that plant was commissioned a few years back and has been in service, and that delivers fuel savings as a solar plant. So anything it produces displaces what would otherwise have been produced by a fossil fuel plant. In addition to the solar plant, we would have installed infrastructure that begins to set the grid up for, we hear a lot about smart grids and so on. So we began to invest in equipment and grid modernization that would facilitate the transition to renewables and the integration of customer-owned renewables onto the network, facilitate the very 63 megawatts we have today. And we continue to do that and need to make more going forward to continue that trend.
Now, Shane, other interveners who made opening presentations included the team of Tricia Watson and David Simpson, Bria's Stephen Worm, and Ricky Went. And before I close, I should note that BARP is still pressing ahead with that injunction to halt the proceedings based on the lack of time given to their counsel to prepare. The hearing resumes on Monday at 9 at the Accra Beach Resort, when the team of Watson and Simpson will start their cross-examination of Mr. Blackman and also receive a decision on an earlier application to the panel. But for now, it's back to you, Shane.
Thanks a lot, Ryan. Today, Prime Minister Mia Motley delivered the inaugural Kofi Annan Memorial Lecture Series. Prime Minister Motley addressed the series, which provides an opportunity for leaders to set out new ideas and agendas for international cooperation and diplomacy, recalling Secretary General Annan's role in championing rules-based cooperation and sustainable solutions. Ms. Motley, who spoke about the lessons which Kofi Annan gave, said global solidarity was among them, and the presentation of the COVID-19 pandemic was truly a time when the unification of the world was needed.
The virus spread all over the world, touching every shore, killing millions and causing untold harm to millions more, disrupting our lives and everything we came to cherish about it. I remind you that Kofi had cautioned us in an almost prescient foretelling, and forgive me once again for quoting him, because you must understand why I say he was a man ahead of his time. And I quote, "All of us are vulnerable to what we think of as dangers that threaten only other people. But millions of Americans could quickly become infected if a new disease were to break out in a country with poor health care and be carried across the world by unwitting air travelers before it was identified." Has it sunk in? While the COVAX facility was supposed to ensure vaccine doses to the larger populations of developing countries through vaccine nationalism and outright shameless hoarding, by November 2021, some 576 million doses had gone to developing countries, while developed countries held how many? 7.5 billion doses.
Prime Minister Motley also looked at the issue of blacklisting of those in the Caribbean and questioned who was going after the real money launderers.
Who then is going after the real centers of money laundering and the safe havens for corrupt capital? What does mutual accountability look like? And how do we put it in place? And I say simply, where have they found the money from the Russian oligarchs? It hasn't been on the sunny shores of the Caribbean. Yet again, res ipsa loquitur. The facts speak for themselves.
Coming up, an area in Deacons Farm transformed. Government is working to ensure the deaf and hard of hearing are included and able to communicate easily in all aspects of Barbados' society. This afternoon, the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs launched its Deaf Empowerment Program. Elder Affairs Minister Kirk Humphrey says it is a multifaceted venture that consolidates the programs offered by the National Disability Unit. It includes sign language training, interpreting services, guidance and counseling, along with employment training and placement. There's also a communication support service that will see 5 on-call interpreters hired to ensure the deaf and hard of hearing can communicate seamlessly when accessing critical services.
At present, we're aiming to employ or hire about 5 interpreters who will be on call, and as long as the person who is deaf or hearing impaired needs them, then they will make that call and then they can communicate the issues that they have. We're working with obviously our partners in this process. The critical agencies to begin with would be in healthcare, so QEH and the polyclinics and so on, with welfare departments so that persons can get access to support services, because people often rely, persons with disabilities again are disproportionately reflected in our welfare numbers.
And as the ministry pushes ahead with integration plans, Minister Humphrey says the public needs to be more compassionate and caring towards those with disabilities.
Aisha, who is a person with disabilities, her disability is that her hands are short, was on the bus recently. No one got up to give her a seat, and they took her bag though, thankfully. But when the bus moved, she tried to hold on to the railings in the bus, the thing that hangs down. Her hands got caught up, and people just burst out laughing in the bus. Now, I don't know what kind of society we are in when that is the way we treat people, period.
One area of Deacons Farm, which was subjected to illegal dumping, will soon be cleaner after the Ministry of the Environment launched a Clean and Green program there today. Pavilion Terrace has seen debris and garbage heaped on this open lot. Minister of the Environment Adrian Ford and representative for the area Neil Rowe planted a tree. The majority of trees planted will be fruit trees to transform the eyesore, which resident Marcia Robinson says she's happy to be seeing addressed. She wants everyone to keep it clean.
I'm glad to see that this area is being rectified, and I'm happy to say I'm speaking on behalf of my tenants too, because sometimes people come as soon as it is clean and it makes us uncomfortable. Who don't live down in here, just do it. And I'm not pleased about it. And I am glad to see that the area is being rectified.
Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northwest Neil Rowe said the journey began in Ferniehurst by creating a recreational area, and he's happy to be able to extend the project to Deacons Farm.
To create a recreational space here in Pavilion Terrace for the good people of Pavilion Terrace, you know, especially my good friend Yvonne Daniel and her friends. And I am pleased, and if Yvonne wants to come and join me in planting the tree, you're welcome to come. And I'm happy that I can really transform this area, because it will also help me to stop the illegal dumping that take place right here on this parcel of land.
Meanwhile, Environment Minister Adrian Ford said the importance of planting trees must never be underestimated in the fight against climate change. He wants young people to get on board.
I'm imploring the young people of this country to be part of this exercise, because it can basically save the generations and the next generation and the next generation to follow. As I said before, the young people must be the active players. So it's significant that as we open this park, that we are going to start by planting trees around here, beautifying and allowing trees to do all those things that I just mentioned. I am excited today.
A section of Round the Town St. Peter became a pond for a short period this morning after a water main burst in the area. Residents reported low to no water pressure as a result of the incident. One woman shared her experience with CBC.
We got it this morning to this main burst, and the water is flowing like a fountain. Like a fountain, and the households, we can't get water because the pressure is very low, and what is coming is really, really muddy.
Checking in with our regional neighbours, the development of a regional migration policy in CARICOM is being worked on with the aim of eliminating all forms of violence against girls and women, trafficking, forced labour and modern slavery. A meeting of the International Organization on Migration was held in collaboration with CARICOM agencies today to see how the objectives of the Compact for safe, regular and orderly migration can be met. The Deputy Executive Director of the Implementing Agency for Crime and Security, that's IMPACTS, Tanya Awo, spoke about the declaration.
While we have been speaking of a regional migration policy for a number of years, and Michelle brought up the year 2016, I think we started then, the declaration has now set the stage for the agenda, which has been put before you today. We are here today as institutions working with each other and with our member states and stakeholders and IOM to come together to form a way or to forge a way to develop a regional migration policy.
Minister responsible for immigration, Wilfred Abrams, said Barbados has applied for formal membership of the IOM after Cabinet agreed to the recommendations of his ministry.
Barbados should formally join the IOM. The formal request was submitted by the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade to our permanent representative at a permanent mission in Geneva. And we are honored that Barbados was able to benefit from the myriad of assistance which is available and look forward to continuing support from the organization. I do note, you think about both governments and politics and international organizations, if you're invited, then chances are when you play, you can be successful. But until such time, we can't take anything for granted. So, Michelle, I am very pleased to hear that you were speaking as if it's a done deal and already welcoming Barbados, subject to the formal John Hancock in November.
Sports time now, we say good evening to Damien Best.
A scale-back Barbados Netball Association domestic season gets underway tomorrow. Speaking to CBC Sports, BNA President Nisha Cragwell says the matches will be played at the Netball Stadium in Waterford. Local netball has been on pause since the COVID-19 pandemic started back in 2020. And given the restrictions on contact sports, its return was cancelled last year when other associations were doing phased return to play. Round-robin action starts tomorrow at 5:15 p.m. and continues on Mondays and Wednesdays.
We normally will play from March to July, and so we're going to have a very short competition. We normally have around 72 teams competing annually in our competitions, but we're not going to have enough time for that. So it's just to really get our players back out there on court, and from next year, you will see the return of the opening ceremony, the award ceremony, and so on. So we're going to have on the 16 competition, and then we're also going to have what we call an open competition and masters. So the open competition is we are going to allow all teams to play who are in that competition. We're not going to have Division 1 to 6 as we normally have, and then juniors, and no, because we know that there are some teams that are going to be struggling to put players back on court. So this year is really to get persons ready for our competition next year.
Next is some surfing news, and two of this island's top surfers were eliminated today from the repechage rounds at the ISA World Surf Games in Huntington Beach, California. Starting the day with a team total of 2,620 points, Barbados slipped to 17th position on 1,570 points among the 50 teams competing. Female surfer Chelsea Tuat won her 7th round heat in the repechage section with a wave total of 10.33.
The new COVID-19 protocols will be a significant boost to the winter tourist season. Minister of Tourism, Senator Lisa Cummins, said it augurs well for the industry.
This is going to be a significant boost to our winter season, which is upcoming, because many of the people who are coming from our major source markets are themselves living in countries where these restrictions have been long removed, and they're no longer in place except in certain limited circumstances, including some of the instances that were mentioned earlier by the Prime Minister and by the Attorney General. And so it allows for a seamless transition for visitors from their home countries to here in Barbados, while at the same time encouraging people to make individual and personal responsible choices.
The Tourism Minister said stakeholders are already at work with the new regulations in the run-up to the opening of the season.
Our PR teams are already fully lined up. Our source markets are fully lined up. All of our travel partners will be communicated with within the next couple of hours, and that communication has already begun while we have been sitting here. So we are moving forward with the regulations as have been outlined by the Prime Minister and further detailed by the Attorney General.
A consultant on regulated Canadian citizenship and immigration is on a mission to help Barbadians and other Caribbean nationals seamlessly relocate to Canada to pursue educational and employment opportunities. Taisha Hilgai of Tabula Rasa Immigration Services tells CBC News she's striving to be an authentic voice for those looking to relocate, as some in the region have been scammed in the past. The Dominican by birth says there are numerous vacancies across different sectors and provinces for which foreign skilled workers can apply.
In provinces like British Columbia, you find you would have more of the techs. So that is like our tech province. So the IT, information technology, computer science, and so on. Then you would find our Atlantic provinces would be more of the hotel industry. So the housekeepers, front desk, cooks, chefs, and things like that. Ontario, again, I'm in Ontario, so I'm kind of most familiar with Ontario. But so you will have the construction workers. We will have the skilled trades like the plumbers, the welders. These are just always in need.
Despite some backlogs with the processing of some visas in the system, Hilgai said she reaped several successes with clients since she formed her own company earlier this year.
I did have a success story and a visa for a client of mine in Kenya, Africa. We've had 3 approved study permits, one from Belgium, one from Dominica, one from Trinidad. I believe that we've had an express entry provincial nomination this week.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.